And thank you so much for watching Morning Live. Now, former President Jacob Zuma briefly appeared in the KwaZulu-Natal High Court earlier this week on fraud, corruption and money laundering charges relating to the controversial, what's now become known as the arms deal. Now, the matter could not go ahead as Zuma's legal team indicated that he would appeal Friday's judgment, dismissing his application for a permanent stay of prosecution. And Zuma now has until the 1st of November to file papers, and his criminal trial will resume in February. Now, yesterday we discussed this issue with a political analyst, Sandile Swana, and today we look at the opinion of the African National Congress as right of reply to this particular matter, and of course the analysis that we heard from Mr. Swana yesterday. And joining me right now is ANC spokesperson Dakota Legoete. Thanks for coming through.
No, thank you very much, and to all the viewers at home.
So is there a specific part of Mr. Swana's analysis that you wish to respond to, or just an overall response?
It will be an overall response. We have to start where it's clear that an impression is being created that the leadership of the ANC or government under the ANC has been generally corrupt, and which is not, of course, true, because from the analogy yesterday, it is alleged that some of the leaders of the ANC from the time of Nelson Mandela up to date were part of the arms deal, and the arms deal was used as a fundraising scheme for the African National Congress, which we refute as the ANC. And part of the things is that an allegation was made that once Jacob Zuma goes down, the entire NEC would go down. In that particular NEC, I must state it very clear that there are men and women of caliber, of character, of integrity, who are prepared to serve the nation. And it cannot be, an impression cannot be created that all of them are the same, all of them are generally corrupt. And we thought it's going to be important as the African National Congress. Allegations were also made that we have sold out and we are captured by the Europeans. And I mean, that particular assertion, it's also wrong. I mean, as one of the countries in the world, we have a responsibility to cooperate and trade with other parts of the world. And that is what is happening. The European Union is one of the biggest trading partners of South Africa in the world, and there's no way that based on history we can say we don't want Europeans today. It's true, it happened that we were colonized, and in South Africa, one of the things you need to know is that as the ANC, we defined that particular colonization as a colonization of the special type, because you had both the colonized and the colonized within the same boundaries, which is still the case even today. We are one nation based on that particular history, and we cannot, for now, say we have certain hatred for the Europeans based on history. We have said as the ANC that we are a non-racial organization. We stand for principles of recognizing humanity based on merit, and we have not at any point said we will not trade with anybody in the world, including Europeans. So it's not necessarily that when we trade with parts of European countries that we are captured. We are trading even with America, we are trading with China, we are trading with the rest of the continent. So it cannot be used for other purposes other than to understand that we have the responsibility in a global world, in a modern economy, to trade with everybody in the world.
And I don't think the point was about trading with certain parts of the world as much as it was about certain companies that were involved in the so-called arms deal. And what is the ANC's response to that? Because we do know that someone like Tony Ngeni, for example, went to jail because of a gift, as it were, of a 50% discount on a particular vehicle. So, and there were other companies also involved. It's quite well documented. What is the ANC's response to that?
You would know when somebody commits something which is wrong, does not commit it on behalf of an organization or a collective. As the African National Congress, we are clear, even from our last national conference of the 54th National Conference in Nasrec, that we will have to fight corruption and any form of state capture, no matter who's involved. And that is the posture that we would want a government and going forward under the ANC to take. Second is that if there are any criminal charges against any member or leader of the ANC, that must be pursued with the law enforcement agencies rather than subjecting them to courts of public opinion even before they are found guilty or found innocent by administrators of law and justice. You know, in any constitutional democracy, to second-guess the judiciary is a contempt of court. And it's not something that we need to promote or encourage as a society, because we are necessarily putting other lives in danger. We are necessarily undermining our own institutions, including our own establishment. And that is not sustainable going forward, because other people you are prejudicing them of their right to defend themselves in court when you find them guilty before they appear before the courts.
Has the ANC satisfied itself that it has in fact done enough to get to the bottom of any sort of corruption and malfeasance with regards to the arms deal? And I'm talking about the African National Congress. Given what's happened, you talk about some of the companies, British Aerospace, for example, they paid fines in admission of some of the wrongdoing that they were involved in, paying middlemen in order to get a piece of the pie. You've got other companies as well where it was established that they paid huge sums of money in order to gain political influence on the arms deal. These are established facts. So has the ANC satisfied itself that they have indeed gotten to the bottom of it and everyone who was supposed to be held accountable has been held accountable?
Look, we took a resolution, like I said earlier, to establish a commission of inquiry on allegations which were made of state of capture. Anybody, and including our members, we have encouraged them as the African National Congress. If there is anybody who has facts, who has evidence, must go and appear before that commission, so that eventually those who are alleged to have committed crimes, accepting bribes, being part of corruption, they must face the might of the law. That's what we have said as the ANC. And we are still saying that because it's going to be difficult to go corner or square inch by square inch of the country to say who's corrupt and who's not corrupt. When you work on the processes of the court. But that's not what
you're being asked to do. You've been asked to look at objective facts that are already on the table as an organization. And when you talk about the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, that's not a function of the ANC. That is a function of government, that it has been established. And yes, that might be one avenue. But I'm talking about the African National Congress, who many of its members have been implicated here in wrongdoing. And as I say, there are facts that are there. Have you bothered to go and check and follow up?
Look, as part of our efforts to fight malfeasance, to fight corruption and state of capture, we established the Integrity Commission. We have concluded the terms of reference of the Integrity Commission. And I think where the allegations of such nature, the Integrity Commission of the ANC, which is mainly constituted by stalwarts and veterans of the ANC, is better placed to can call any one of our members and leaders to come and account for such acts. So for now, those are some of the efforts that we have tried to do as the ANC. But secondly is that it would not be correct for any one of us to accuse, to allege serious criminal acts which have not been tested by the courts of law. Because in any constitutional democracy, a court of law, it's a final arbiter of any dispute in society. And if there is a dispute or there is a grievance, the courts are better placed to can do that. And that's why I would not want to enter that space because some of the matters we are discussing are before the courts. So we have limitations because of the principle of sub judice.
And I respect that. But looking at, for example, Pharaoh Star, and there was an internal investigation that was conducted there. And of course, they found that they had paid $40 million during this report. Pharaoh Star, which was part of the German consortium, $40 million to gain political access. So was the ANC not interested in finding out who those political figureheads were who were paid this money in order to gain access for this particular company? You were not interested in that?
You would know that some of the matters that we are discussing are before the court. Once a proper investigation is done by law enforcement agencies, prosecution is on, the process of the court is on. We can't interfere as the ANC with that process of the law. Ours is to allow that process to proceed. Where possible, we can call our member to come and explain themselves. So far, those particular matters remain allegations until they are properly tested by a competent court of law rather than a court of public opinion.
So one of the other issues that Mr. Swana raised in his analysis yesterday, he said the ANC has been protecting former President Jacob Zuma. Has the party been protecting him?
We do protect members of the ANC. We do protect leaders of the ANC, that they remain innocent until proven otherwise. as a principle of jurisprudence. But you need to understand that does not undermine the authority of the courts, which are the final arbiter of any dispute in society. So our protection, even President Ramaphosa, we are duty bound, because in the face of the organization, when other allegations, spurious, which are made against him, which have not been tested by a court of law, which are part of the public opinion, including what I'm doing now, is to defend leaders of the ANC who are alleged, from Thabo Mbeki, Kgalema Motlanthe, Trevor Manuel, to have done some malfeasance in the arms deal, when actually some of the allegations which are made against them have not been tested by court. And it would be very unfair to create an impression that as the ANC, we presided over a generally corrupt government.
Let's move on to other issues that I want to pulse you on as well. As the African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa says that 1 trillion rand has been lost during the Zuma years to this whole state capture project. What's the ANC's response to that?
Look, so far, those processes related to what we have lost through state of capture, it's before the commission. I think for all of us who have evidence of, including the president, will have to present before the commission to state all those particular matters if they are there. So far, we have seen that the commission is doing a wonderful work. We would hope that all of us who have evidence of any malfeasance or corruption that happened within the government entities should appear before the commission to categorically clear that particular point. But again, it's important for those who administer law and justice to recover that particular money, because if it's known who took the money and illegally so, we need to recoup that particular money, either through an asset forfeiture unit or either through a court of order, a court order, so that we get everybody to understand in South Africa that corruption does not pay. All of us have to work for what we need.
What I find peculiar here is when the ANC talks about the Zuma years, as if Zuma was not part of the ANC, as if he didn't become president of South Africa by virtue of being president of the African National Congress. Explain to us, how the ANC expects or wants the public to receive that message, because surely this is an ANC. The country lost that money. The country fell to state capture because of the ANC, regardless of who was heading the administration.
Yeah, it's a wrong assertion too, because in South Africa, in terms of our electoral college, we work on a proportional representation. Now, in a proportional representation, it's parties that contest elections, and one amongst them is appointed if they emerge out of election as a president. Now, President Zuma was representing the African National Congress, and if there are any issues which are raised under his administration, those particular issues directly affect the African National Congress as an organization that deployed him. He was not there after a presidential rerun of elections through a constituency base. He was there representing the African National Congress. And that's why as the African National Congress, in our last conference, we made a diagnostic report, accepted some of our weaknesses, and agreed to come up with a commission of inquiry on the state of capture and its impact on society.
But you also need to admit to society that you, as the ANC, have cost this country R1 trillion.
Look, as it is now, it has not been established that is the African National Congress. Investigations are underway. Commissions are underway. Yeah, what I was saying, it was to explain our electoral college. So putting a blame on one person, it will not assist us. The government that was in charge is of the African National Congress.
Exactly.
Including today, the government that is in charge where there are problems with electricity is of the African National Congress.
Yeah, and just finally,
we cannot be fugitives from accountability. We need to account.
And I'm glad you say that. Let's talk about the electricity with load shedding. What's going on? What is the ANC saying? We have a situation whereby the power utility tells us one story the one day and another the other day. We have a total trust deficit right now with Eskom.
Look, it's just unfortunate that these things are happening on the eve of our assessment by the rating agencies. And it has been quite clear in the past that rating agencies raise the issue of electricity as one of the things which weakens the economy of the country. I think government will have to do their best in getting this particular matter of Eskom, particularly on corporate governance, being resolved. Because currently, as it is, even just from the board that is there, I don't think they have the necessary capacity. But on issues of corporate governance, it is wrong for Eskom to have the chairperson being the same person, the group CEO being the same person, a service provider being the same person. I think part of the principles of accounting is the segregation of duties and responsibilities. And that must be done as quickly as possible with that particular board, including its leadership. I have nothing against the chairperson of Eskom, but I don't think it's correct, because if things are asked now, why why do we find ourselves here? Do you expect the chair to answer? Do you expect the CEO to answer? Who's the chair? Who's the CEO? And I mean,
when things break down, in some instances, the chair, the CEO, and the service provider could be the same person.
Could be the same person, and I don't think that is correct, because you can't be a judge in your own trial. You know, as part of separation of powers and segregation of duties and responsibility, you can't be the speaker and the president at the same time.
Have you taken this up with the president and the minister?
Yeah, we've taken this up. We're told that the things will be, the board will be there only for 3 months until a substantive board is appointed. And I think it's about time that we get a proper substantive board, we get a proper management team that can take us to a higher trajectory with Eskom, because if it costs the economy and we attempt to create more jobs, that is going to affect the economy dearly. And if Eskom, it has been the reason why rating agencies have at some point downgraded us, I think it's a matter that needs to receive attention immediately from the government of the ANC. The president must summon everybody. The minister of public enterprises must look at this thing of the board and correct it, because it's wrong the way it is now. Because you will not get Eskom right whilst you have the same person doing all other responsibilities. There is no segregation of duties and responsibilities, and it's a problem.
Well, we're going to leave it there. Thanks to ANC spokesperson Dakota Legoete for discussing former President Jacob Zuma's court case that was analyzed yesterday by Sandile Swana, and of course other matters as well. Brings us up to time for headline news with Leanne.